A show of force broadcast on Venezuelan TV as government media reports countrywide military exercises amid growing tension with the US. Venezuela's defense minister inspected air defense systems and warned Washington about any attempt to overthrow the government. The military exercises were held as President Nicolas Maduro signed into law a new national defense framework to integrate civilian and military forces.
By signing this law, all integral defense commands that bring together all public institutions of the Venezuelan state, the military and all popular power must be activated at dawn. So by signing this, the order must be activated for integral defense commands to be established, structured and put to work in order to be prepared.
Maduro says US President Donald Trump is trying to overthrow him. Trump denies that.
There are reports that you are considering strikes within Venezuela. Is that true?
No.
That you made a decision on that?
No, it's not true.
And that's despite a build-up of US naval forces in the region that Washington says is part of what it describes as its war on drugs. The US has bombed more than a dozen boats off the Venezuelan coast since September, and more recently in the Eastern Pacific. Washington says the vessels were targeted because they were transporting drugs, and more than 70 people have been killed. Trump has downplayed reports of the US expanding its contacts with opposition groups inside Venezuela. Maduro's defense minister says his country is ready to respond to any US military escalation.
We're lovers of peace. We do not want war either here or anywhere in the world. But if they come to touch Venezuela, they will find us here.
Foreign leaders, some members of Congress, legal experts and family members of those killed in the attacks on boats have demanded proof of Washington's claims. France added its voice to increasing concern over what Washington may be planning, saying US military operations in the Caribbean violate international law. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera.
Well, the US has been rapidly increasing its military presence in the Caribbean. Since August, more than 10,000 American soldiers and fighter jets have been deployed near Venezuela. It's the largest deployment of U.S. forces in the region in decades. And as we mentioned, the U.S. Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald R Ford, has now arrived in the southern Caribbean. It's the largest ship of its kind in the world, with its own air wing of more than 75 fighter jets, helicopters, and early warning aircraft. A Navy destroyer carrying guided missiles, helicopters, and Marines has also arrived in Trinidad and Tobago near Venezuela's coast. Venezuela has put its armed forces on high alert, deploying thousands of troops and a reported 5,000 Russian-made missiles across the country to counter the U.S. buildup. Richard Weitz, we'll bring you in. You're a senior fellow at the NATO Defense College, joining us from Washington, D.C. So how significant is this U.S. carrier that's been deployed to the region?
Well, symbolically, it's very significant. I can't recall this large a warship ever going into South America waters. The carrier is very capable. But militarily, it's a bit out of place. This kind of a carrier strike group is designed to fight in contested airspace. So if the U.S. were to go to war with Iran in the Gulf or China in the Pacific, then you would want to have a lot of air power that in a mobile platform. Here, the U.S. already has air superiority, so it's perhaps designed more for symbolic purposes to show U.S. power and as your package said, perhaps encourage the Venezuelan military to replace Maduro with another leader leading to free elections.
So you seem to say that the message that's being sent is somewhat symbolic. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, if the U.S. were to invade Venezuela, the more useful are these thousands of Marines on amphibious ships. If the U.S. were to conduct airstrikes on targets inside Venezuela, it would probably, it can use the carrier aircraft, but it can use a lot of other aircraft too that are nearby, or even launched from the United States. It can use drones. So the military purpose of the carrier is a bit unclear, but certainly symbolically, it's a massive ship. It definitely shows U.S. power in the region to the Venezuelans and others.
Isn't this seen or described by many as provocation, though? Because there could be a real risk of miscalculation or a confrontation between the U.S. and Venezuelan forces. And like some Venezuelan officials have said, that their country will respond to any provocation.
Right, but it's not really clear what they could do. The Venezuelan military doesn't have the capacity to attack the carrier. My assessment is that the U.S. were actually to invade the country, the military would try and organize a guerrilla campaign. So it would resemble what we saw in Iraq after March 2003. The U.S. could certainly defeat the regular Venezuelan military, occupy the country, but then you're going to get into this protracted insurgency, and as we've seen in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is not very popular in the U.S. So I still think President Trump is not going to order a full-scale invasion of Venezuela.
Venezuela, meanwhile, is holding its own sort of 2 days of national drills. What message do you think Caracas is sending with this display, and to whom?
Well, I think to whom is a great question, because some of it is to the U.S. saying, look, we're going to fight back. The military supports Maduro, but it's probably also designed to intimidate the domestic audiences, the military people throughout the country. Don't try and overthrow the government. Don't try and challenge us. We still have a lot of means of violence to deal with you.
Okay, Richard Weitz, you're a senior fellow at the NATO Defense College, speaking to us from Washington, D.C. this hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting me.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.